Atheists with Christian friends? There's a very nice Christian woman in a Facebook group, Atheism, that I'm part of, and she's just asking general curiosity questions from a Christian's perspective to wondering about the workings of an atheist's mind. She's not being accusing, and I like to give answers. She's being decent, not accusing or condescending, and that's very refreshing from a religious person. Still, it confuses me why these nice people support a God who, at any point, encouraged his people to rape and pillage, but that's beside the point here. She asked this time, is it possible for most atheists to even be friends with Christians, or is it like a no-cross zone? The pun wasn't intended, but it fits. Anyway, my answer? I agree with you that the personality makes a person relatable. In her message, which was quite long, she did mention the aspect of personality being the whole thing. It shouldn't be about religion. And again, I agree with that. The beautiful thing about friendship is that you can have different friends to suit our different social needs, or shared preferences. But not all friends need to be involved with all of our needs or preferences. Just by the random chance of people being people, you'll have someone you love doing one thing with, but hate doing almost everything else with. And you don't need to do anything else with them, in most cases where choice is still an option. The only thing extra that religion brings to the table is the second half of that old adage, it takes religion to make good people do bad things. If the person's religion inspires them to be involved in things I stand strongly against, I probably wouldn't feel comfortable associating with them. But it would have to be something that harms people, like being anti-gay rights, biblically encouraged racism beyond just closed-door, all races included racist jokes, because that's just harmless fun when you're even making fun of yourself among mixed friends who are making fun of themselves too. We all have observations we like to express, even if they're not PC. Or if they're just being one of those religious people who have to talk about God all the time. Back to the whole person, religion, whatever. A religious person who talks about God all the time will just be annoying. Atheists don't have a one creed book that all must read and follow, so we don't usually stand around with our casual friends saying, gee, it fills my heart to know there's no God, or yeah, praise Dawkins, or thank Darwin for this or that. Well, many of us probably do feel and say that, gee, it fills my heart to know there's no God, but we say it to ourselves, really. But you know what I mean. We don't make a forced ritual out of it. Well, except for us video makers who are standing and fighting against harm caused by religion. Harm, unless there's something about a God that's encouraging people to harm other people, we're here to remind you, you need to show us that lawgiver first. But there are those Christians who take the whole witnessing thing a little too seriously. Witnessing, which is something I can't find anything other than blatantly dishonest. How can you witness something that's invisible that you're not willing to show? You know? It's a dishonesty. But yeah, so there are those who take it too seriously and invoke the Lord or thank the Lord almost every other second, and that would just make a person annoying, and anything that makes a person annoying makes them difficult to hang out with. And that's just my own annoyance. Other people may not be annoyed by that. So I do have a few Christian friends, and some I consider family members that I love with all of my heart. Well, all of my brain, that makes me think it's my heart. So I know there are great, kind, beautiful-hearted Christian people who still confusingly choose to believe in obsolete books that tell us to praise a God who at any point supported genocide. And that's my point. If you don't follow over 80% of your God's rules from the only source book that claims him to exist and to have any authority over anyone, why claim to be a follower of that? But if people have to constantly bring it up, I will just choose not to hang out with them. If they like Star Wars or Frank Zappa or video games, then hell, let's play. I'm just not a fan of their fandom. And fandom is the furthest extent of influence any religion should ever have. Any problems I've had relating to religious people has been usually of the religious person's choice to see me as different from them for not believing in myths. Obviously, I can't really respect a person who believes in myths quite as much as a person who sees the myths for what they are, but I don't have to respect everybody's choices to like them or to be their friend. It helps, obviously, but people have different, multiple aspects of their personality that you can relate to. If you can't relate to something else that they don't, that of their personality. The problem is that by being taught from the Bible or Quran, they are being programmed from a young age to think there is something wrong with a person who doesn't believe in their God, and that everybody needs to be fixed or shunned, all directly supported by the Bible verses and Quran verses, mind you. And this is a damaging way to raise a child, already learning to hate, even if that was not the intent of the parents. And for the authors of the Bible, that definitely was the intent. But hate is the result in more cases than not, and hate will always be more of a result than if teachings like this were never introduced. But my point is, they are made to feel bugged if those in their life are not also saved from their own God by a son who ultimately still answers to that cruel God, eliminating the entire point of the son completely, apart from just having better PR. And that makes Christians, when you don't believe in that, either hurt or angry, just because that's the way they're taught to respond. The lessons they are force-fed from childhood before they have the ability to reason properly, before they even can properly use their free will to find something wrong with non-believers, to call them fools, to think disbelief is punishable by eternal torture, stay with them almost all their lives. And this kind of thinking can only lead to division caused by religiously inspired discrimination, teachings about encouraging discrimination. In relationships, I leave their religion alone. I don't bring it up, and I try not to openly insult it around them. I, write journal entries and make YouTube videos, so sometimes they will come across it. But it's just because I'd rather feel positive feelings around them that I don't really bring it up with them. I'm not with them to talk about religion. But eventually, by the wording of their scripture, designed to tug at their monkey fear gut reactions, they force themselves to bring it up and make it an issue. Why don't you go to church with me? Why don't you go on your own? 'Cause it's not with you. Which I understand, but no amount of loving a person at this stage in my life can make me sit in an uncomfortable seat for 2 to 4 hours listening to a guy who has no idea what he's talking about, or more likely knows exactly what he's talking about but chooses to be dishonest and preaches it anyway, telling people disgusting and false things about themselves, to be ashamed of themselves, and then offering worship of figureheads as answers to these problems, rather than actually giving actual helpful advice about life. They tell phony little cute stories meant to wow those who don't really think about the stories. And there's my cat's tail. Mind pollution of that magnitude is toxic. And I literally get sick to my stomach imagining all these good, decent people swallowing this hateful, self-deprecating, discriminatory religion with smiles on in unison, like robots. I've been to church to know exactly what it has to offer, and I have no further desire to submit myself to being disgusted by it firsthand. Now, knowing my feelings about a religion that you didn't write, Christians, are you now less likely to be my friend? Or do you realize religion is just another human fandom, and that hating me as a whole because I don't like it is just as silly as a Flintstones fan hating a Jetsons fan as a whole person based on one tiny opinion? Even when they both agree that Astro and Dino were pretty cool. The quote that I've been repeating fits here too. I do not despise religious people. I despise what they stand for. I can still be friends with Christians and respect them, and I know and love some Christians very much, so long as they choose not to make an issue of it, nor do any harm that their religion's source book encourages. I'd have no reason to avoid being friends with anybody besides other personality differences that just don't mesh. Like a person who loves sports and goes to bars all the time. I would rather not. But if they like something else I like,